I guess when the preaching that moves me is this kind of event of encounter where it doesn't drive me further into myself, but in many ways it turns my attention outward to something coming to me, calling to me. I think to me that's what kind of counts.
That dynamic of it's not coming out of me, it's coming to me.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really hard when you seem to agree with Charles Taylor that we moderns live in this immanent frame, this kind of closed world. How do we preachers hope to break through, break out?
Yeah.
Let God break into that immanent frame, closeness in which we live?
Yeah. Well, I do think this is the real challenge for the preacher, is that to say in some ways, behold, here's the word of the Lord, can just be ignored and maybe not even denied. That actually might be helpful if people are like, no, this isn't the word of the Lord. But I think what happens for a lot of people is the preacher says, behold, hear the word of the Lord, and they're thinking about their fantasy football team, or they're thinking about how they're going to get everyone to school on Monday morning when the middle kid is vomiting at home or something. So there's a sense where people can kind of just tune out. And so that kind of immanent frame, Charles Taylor perspective, but also the buffer, the kind of buffer itself, that it becomes really hard for the preacher to cross the boundary of the buffer of the self, because I can just kind of turn you off, or I'm not even sure how words themselves would become in me and change me in some way. Though we have all sorts of examples of this. I mean, words do incredibly powerful things, like, have someone you love say, I no longer love you. And that's a proclamation that shakes a world and busts open a buffer. But for the most part, like unfortunately, as a religious act, it's very easy for people to just kind of tune out. So the preacher has to find some way to grab attention, I think, in some way to cross the line of the buffer. But there's deep temptations in that, which is then the only way you can do that is to be sentimental. The only way you can do that. So you have to make people cry. That's the way you open up the buffer. Or you have to be really funny, or you have to be therapeutic in some way, that you have to make it matter to people, which will always kind of go to a kind of entertainment level or a kind of self-help level. So those all are kind of legitimate temptations because of the secular age. People can fall into thinking, well, what really preaching was this stand-up comedy? What preaching really is some kind of 3-point sentimentality that feels like a Hallmark Christmas movie, or I have to be a celebrity in some ways to grab people's attention. So all of those become, I think, a real challenge of how you cross the buffer, because just the words or the office of the preacher and just saying this is the word of the Lord no longer does it in this kind of secular.